Welcome back, everybody, to the Below Average Joe's MMA podcast, episode number 107. It's Friday. We're here at the end of another week, this time for a preview of a big pay-per-view for UFC 263, Dom. 2 title fights, a 5-round
featured bout.
A lot of good fights on here. We're going to go over 9 of them. That's all 5 of the main card and 4 of the prelims. So
this has got to be a record, I'm pretty sure.
I think it's tied, actually. I believe it's tied for a record. We have done this before. Yeah, crazy. So everybody strap in. This is going to be a good one. It's going to be a long one. But Dominic, how are you doing right now? It's late. We're filming late, too, so that doesn't help anything.
We got a little late night session in, but never too late to talk about some fights. I'm excited. We've been looking forward to this pay-per-view for a while. Knock on wood. Again, we record these on Thursday nights. Hopefully everything goes good at the weigh-ins tomorrow morning when you guys are listening to this. 2 rematches, 2 title fights, obviously the Nate Diaz return, and a bunch of other great fights to make this card stacked. I can't wait to go over it, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. Got a nap in before we started here, so feeling refreshed. Feeling like it's almost like the morning, afternoon time right now. So my body clock's all out of whack, but we're
beautiful. Yeah,
we'll deal with it. But besides that, good and just ready to kind of get started here. But we're just going to transition directly into today's The News. Starting with our fight announcements here. August 7th, UFC 265 adds a bout between 2 big prospects. Casey Kenny coming off a very close loss to Dominic Cruz, and Song Yadong, who's had a very mixed run of things as of late. I believe he's coming off of a loss to
Kyler Phillips.
That
fight was nuts.
Before that, I believe Yadong beat Marlon Vera, but that was a fight that was so close, and a lot of people, myself included, kind of sided the other way, felt that Marlon Vera got the W there. So 2 guys coming off of losses, but very close fights. What do you think here? What should we expect to see?
This is a low-key banger, a fight that I really think is going to fly under the radar, which is unfortunate with 2 big prospects like this. But I think stylistically it has all the makings to be very competitive, whether it's grappling or on the feet. These guys are very well-rounded. Winner probably going to face a ranked guy next, the way it's looking and what they've been fighting previously. Both of their last fights, if you're doubting this at all, just go take a look at both of them because they were awesome. Kenny's fight with Dom was amazing. Song Yadong, Kyler Phillips, that fight was one of the arguable fight of the nights that evening. Can't wait for that one. It's going to be a great addition to that pay-per-view card. Yeah,
Song Yadong was just ranked not too long ago, actually coming into that fight with Kyler Phillips. So you know that this fight, really both these guys hanging around just number 16, 17, basically. So it's a big fight in terms of kind of, who's knocking at the door more than the other here. And with 2 guys this young, I look forward to it to see kind of who's more polished right now. Casey Kenny has definitely he's shown me a little bit more in the last year.
I agree.
That fight with Dominic Cruz, I look at Cruz as still a top 5, 6, 7 bantamweight in the world.
Yep.
So for him to hang in there the way he did with Dominic Cruz and even take a round from Dominic Cruz, it's very impressive to me. Song Yadong has kind of been, we know the potential with this guy, with this kid. He's, 22?
Both so young, man.
Yeah, he's like a 22-year-old. He's one of the biggest prospects the UFC has, especially considering his age. We just haven't seen him really put it all together over the last year. Just a couple, I don't want to say lackluster performances. That fight with Kyler Phillips was very close. And then even the Marlon Vera fight, very close as well. I just think that, we're seeing a bit of stagnation with Song Yadong. Hopefully we'll see some growth here and leads to a very fun fight.
Absolutely.
Next up, big title fight, September 4th, UFC 266. Our coaches of this season of The Ultimate Fighter, they get their bout rescheduled. Alexander Volkanovski defending the featherweight title against Brian T-City Ortega. This fight, this is what we have a season of The Ultimate Fighter basically building towards.
Yep.
This fight's going to be huge. It's going to be a really big fight for this division. This was supposed to happen at the co-main event UFC 260 that was under Stipe and Ngannou 2. Unfortunately, it didn't happen there. I believe Volkanovski had COVID. So now they get a season of The Ultimate Fighter, and they're going to run it back in September. So really kind of a win-win for this fight. And I think it's going to be a really good fight. Brian Ortega looks much improved since that Max Holloway loss, while Volkanovski continues to be one of the most underrated fighters, not just champions, but all-around fighters in the entire UFC. Back-to-back wins over Max Holloway, whether you like it or not.
This fight, man, I can't wait. I was so ready for it in March. It sucks it got delayed. And if I remember correctly off the top of my head, this is the same card where Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira is taking place. So we've got a 2-title fight card lined up for September. These guys, stylistically, man, as good as they come at 145 pounds. As you mentioned, Ortega looked amazing in his return fight against Korean Zombie. Volkanovski, 2 straight wins against Max Holloway. Again, whether you like it or not, and I didn't like it at the time. Little blessed era bias, but he's undefeated in the UFC. The guy's not even lost since, his second career professional fight. Mm-hmm. I can't wait for this title fight. Much anticipated. One of my most anticipated fights, really, of all of 2021. Sucks we got to wait 9 months, but it'll be worth the wait.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. And you see on this season of The Ultimate Fighter how calculated these guys are, how competitive they are. They started out very respectful, and it looks like as we kind of go on here through the season, they're going to get more and more tense, and it's the nature of the beast. You got Volkanovski has what Ortega wants, and Volkanovski's going to do whatever he can to hold on to it. So naturally, that's going to lead to an escalation in the otherwise pretty neutral beef that these two have. But you see just these two competitors, and nobody does it quite like these two. They're not super flashy, talkative guys, but they also have very fun, fan-friendly fight styles.
Yeah, so very prideful guys.
Yeah, so it definitely just lends itself to be a fans type of title fight here.
Oh yeah.
Following that, September 25th, 3 weeks after the title fight we just talked about. This is a premier fight for the women's flyweight division. 2 women coming off of very disappointing performances. Jessica Andrade coming off the title loss to Valentina Shevchenko, going up against Cynthia Calvillo, number 5, coming off that really a bit of a dud of a fight.
Yeah,
really
lackluster.
A lackluster performance in her loss to Caitlin Chookagian. What should we expect to see here from these two?
Man, it's so weird about Cynthia Calvillo because when she first entered the UFC, really at that time, she was the biggest women's prospect in all of the divisions. She was running through people. I believe was even undefeated because she's 9-2 now. I still think she has a relatively high ceiling, but can she put it all together against the elite of the division? And Jessica Andrade is going to be a perfect test. We saw what Valentina did to Andrade, which Valentina kind of just does that to everybody, if we're being honest. But Andrade, a former champion, wins in 3 different weight classes. She's no slouch, and I think it's a really, really tough fight for Calvillo. Should she pass, who knows what the UFC will do next with her, considering the way this division works. Honestly, you could get 1 win and fight Valentina just because they're always looking for contenders. So I'm looking forward to it. It's definitely interesting, especially if Andrade can bounce back and win. She's in an even weirder kind of situation. So it's a good fight, man, and has a lot of implications for it.
Yeah, I think what's actually kind of telling is I've been hearing a little bit of whispers of potentially Andrade going back down
115
to strawweight, just because you lose the title fight to Valentina, and she is a former strawweight champion. There is a potential trilogy fight with her and Rose.
True.
She had a, I guess, more clear path moving forward if she were to go back to strawweight. But this fight shows she's committed, at least for the time being, to stay at flyweight. And, that's probably good for her on her body in the long run. And if she wins this, you got to think she's going to have to win at least 1 more.
At least,
and who knows, by that point, who knows what Valentina's going to be doing. I mean, she can really do whatever she wants. She can go back up to bantamweight if she wants to, but she's
the queen.
She shows no interest in really doing anything but beating up people at 125 pounds.
Rack up the defenses.
Yeah,
man.
so, I mean, good for her.
Yeah.
And overall, I think I have more questions about what kind of Cynthia Calvillo we're going to see here rather than Jessica Andrade. I look for Andrade to be herself. She doesn't have, even in the Shevchenko fight where, you know, maybe people had more expectations for her going in. Even if you did, she still fought like Jessica Andrade fights.
Right.
It just so happened that Valentina had a great style to counteract that. With Calvillo, it's a lot of inconsistencies. So,
Yes.
You know, the best Cynthia Calvillo might be able to hang with Jessica Andrade, but the worst Cynthia Calvillo will get the brakes beaten off of her by Jessica Andrade. So
yeah, it's a good way to put it.
That's what I look forward to seeing.
Excited for that one.
Yeah, that's going to wrap up our fight announcements, but one more for the rest. Alistair Overeem, who recently got released from his UFC contract. He's, I believe, might have even retired from the sport of MMA.
Yeah.
He released a video on his personal Instagram and where he put the gloves down. You know, that was people are like, oh, is this just a retirement video? No, it is not.
It's actually a badass hype video.
It was. He has signed a multi-fight deal with Glory Kickboxing. That's right. Overeem going back to kind of the sport where he really kind of, I don't know if that was a sport that made him first, but it kind of was. You know, his
really got his name out there.
Yeah, he 10-4 pro kickboxing record, but he's going back to Glory Kickboxing, and I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, I'm just, I'm happy that the guy, if he wants to keep fighting, he's got a route to do it, one that he's shown to be good at in the past. I'm glad he's not to badmouth this organization, but I'm glad he's not going to like a bare knuckle FC or something like that.
Yeah.
That would show more desperation, I think. But here, This is something he can still be very competitive in. He's got a name value going there. He's been with Glory Kickboxing before, and he's just a very talented kickboxer. So it's
a K1 Grand Prix champion way back in the day, you know? It's a good move for him. I'm sure there's a pretty little paycheck coming with it. And the one thing I can say about, Overeem, there are fighters that seem to go too long in the UFC and then they just get battered and beat up. But this was a guy that before that last loss was on that one last ride. He was stacking up some wins, looking like he might make one more run at the title. Obviously gets stopped by Volkov, but I still think there's some gas left in the tank. So I am pretty excited to see maybe he does have one or two really good performances left. And there's some really stud heavyweight kickboxers at Glory. So there could be some fun matchups over there.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But I think that's going to wrap it up here for today's edition of The News.
The News.
Let's get into some fight talk here because we got 9 of them to do.
Woo-wee.
And Dominic, I'm going to give you the reins here, and let's start with our prelims.
Yeah, so I was telling Noah this kind of off recording. The prelims are so good. They're essentially one fight short of just being a whole fight night card. And we're starting off with 2 top 15 featherweights. Number 14 ranked Movsar Evloev. Number 15 ranked Hakeem Dawodu. For Evloev, he's 14-0, 4-0 in the UFC. He's got 3 KO TKOs, 4 submissions, 2 of those 7 in the first round. Notable win coming against Nick Lentz via split decision in his last outing. And obviously, no notable losses because, well, he's got a donut on his record. But for Hakeem, number 15, he's 12-1-1, 5-1 in the UFC. He also has 7 finishes, but all by KO TKO. Again, 2 in the first round, just like Movsar. Notable win in his most recent outing against Zubaira Tukhugov. That was a split decision. And coming into this, Dawodu's riding a 5-fight win streak. His only career loss and UFC loss came to Danny Henry. So not the most notable of names, but when a guy only has 1 loss, I always got to throw it out there. And it was in Hakeem's UFC debut, and it came by way of submission. So interesting stylistic fight here because Hakeem, really a guy that likes to come in, throw hands, be really active, even got pissed off against Zubaira in that last outing because he wasn't being as active back. It was just kind of awkward. They were yelling at each other. It was weird. Movsar, a real grinder, can grind it. All of his wins in the UFC have came by decision. Not that that's a bad thing. It's a guy that can just implement his will, suck the will out of his opponents. So it's a good stylistic clash here. 2 top 15 guys.
Yeah, this fight is kind of reminiscent of what we were just talking about with Casey Kinney and Song Yadong, where except these two guys are ranked. Both young guys, very hungry guys, have looked really good as of late in their UFC careers. I know Dawodu has the one loss, but happening in his debut, who knows what kind of situation he was coming into there. Different styles here. Hakeem is a bit more going to pressure you, kind of try to walk you down. We'll try to look for more of that firefight, while Movsar is more calculated.
Yes.
He's definitely got, I guess you could argue, a more technical style. At least that's how he presents himself. I think Hakeem can very much hold his own. I'll just be interested to see kind of, can Hakeem catch Movsar? That would be interesting. I think he does carry a lot of that power for a featherweight. But Movsar, man, he looks very special, if I'm being honest. The kind of traits you see in him are stuff that you see in some of these guys on their way up, guys like Zabit. You see this kind of calculated approach to a fight, and guys that have basically every skill. Yeah. Like they have all this entire skill set built up that is very good. And yet they're so calm and confident in their fights. It's so interesting to watch because you feel like at any moment they could really just pounce and pretty much take over an entire fight, but they just don't do it right away. It's very interesting to watch, and I see a lot of that in Movsar. So I look forward to this fight. I think it could be really fun. I look for whoever kind of whose pace is going to dominate here, because if it's Movsar, it's going to be quite slowed down. But if it's Hakeem, this could be a firefight, kind of like what he tried to get Zubaira to do in their fight.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, man. It's going to be about the pacing in this one. For Movsar, can he keep it at his pacing, which is more slower, more methodical, implement that grinded out style? For Hakeem, if he can pressure Movsar, make him uncomfortable, make it a firefight, that's where it could get really interesting. That's the path to victory in terms for both of these guys. The pacing going to be big in this featherweight clash.
I agree.
On to the next one. Noah, we have a number one contender fight on our hands on the prelims. I'm telling you, this card is stacked top to bottom.
Yeah.
Number 3 ranked Lauren Murphy. Number 6 ranked Joanne Calderwood. Women's flyweight. Lauren Murphy riding high right now. She's 14-4, 6-4 in the UFC. She's got 8 KO TKOs, 1 submission, 2 of those finishes in the first round. Notable wins against Andrea Lee and Roxanne Modafferi, both by way of decision. As I mentioned, on a kind of a heat wave, she's got 4 straight wins, looking to make it 5 and to solidify herself as the number one contender. For JoJo Calderwood, she's 15-5, 7-5 in the UFC, been around for quite some time. She's got 5 KO TKOs, 1 submission, 4 of those 6 in the first round. Way more notable names here, both wins and losses-wise for Calderwood. She's been in it for a while with some of the elite. She's got wins over Courtney Casey, Ariane Lipsky, and Andrea Lee, and Jessica Ai, all of those by way of decision. Notable losses to Jessica Andrade via submission. Decision losses to Cynthia Calvillo, who we talked about in the news, and Caitlin Chukagian, and then got submitted in a number one contender fight against Jennifer Maia. And before I let you take it away, Noah, just realized I didn't say Lauren Murphy's notable losses, so we're going to flip back to that really quick. For Murphy, she's got losses to Sarah McMahon, Liz Carmouche, Caitlin Chukagian, and CJR Eubanks, all by way of decision. So again, a number one contender fight, if I've ever seen one, especially in that division where we're always looking for contenders, as we just mentioned for the Andrade and Calvillo fight announcement. What are you looking for in this one stylistic-wise, Noah?
Yeah, it is interesting to see a number one contender fight kind of in this spot.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that's because I'm not entirely sure that this is a number one contender fight. It probably is. It should be.
For poor Lauren Murphy, if she wins, I hope.
Yeah, but even she was the one that actually was more who got a chance to comment on that this week.
Yeah.
And even said she spoke a lot differently than she did back when she won at UFC 254 and was.
She lit up that post-fight press conference.
Yeah, she looked like she was pissed off. Yeah. Like, I deserve this. But here, it was a bit of a different tone. It was like, oh, we don't know what could happen. What if I get hurt after winning? Or what if Valentina gets hurt? she was like, even Joanne Calderwood had the shot at one point and then wanted to stay active, so she loses to Jennifer Maia, loses her title shot.
Right.
So this should be a number one contender fight. But is it? I don't know. I think a lot of it depends on what kind of performance we see from these two ladies here. Joanne Calderwood is a bit more battle-tested. She has the better wins on her resume. And, her losses, she sometimes hasn't lost in the best of ways. She has – it seems like she's so good at times, but then when she loses, it's like she gets kind of dominated.
Right.
Andrade fight, which, we always have a fun story about. Just because, you were very high on Joanne Calderwood in that fight. And then she kind of got dominated by, Jessica Andrade, former champion, top fighter in this division. Great fighter, but the way she, this is a girl, we know Joanne Calderwood's got great takedown defense, and yet in that fight, it was nowhere to be seen.
Right.
And then you look at the Jennifer Maia fight where she kind of just got caught in a submission. But again, for it to happen so quickly as it did, I think a lot of it for her might be mental. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I see two different Joanne Calderwoods in there sometimes. There's no telling if what we might see from her here. Lauren Murphy going to be a bit more, I guess. She's the more consistent fighter. She's the more
you know what you're going to see out of her.
You kind of know what you're going to get. I don't look for her to be all that much improved. I mean, she looks really good as of late.
Yeah.
So I don't want to make that sound like a bad thing, but I think she's kind of hit her ceiling as a fighter, and now it's just, okay, how far can she take this? And I think she has a really good shot here against Joanne Calderwood, considering she does have a bit more of a grappling heavy style, but she's not necessarily she can win via submission, and she can do that quite well, but it's not in the way that Joanne has tended to lose her fights via submission.
Lauren's a grinder.
Yeah, when Jennifer Maia beat her, it was due to more of the finesse of the submission rather than overpowering her. That's what Lauren Murphy's going to look to do. I don't know if she can do that to JoJo. I think this could be an interesting fight. It also could be a bit of a boring one for a lot of people watching at home. Just, Joanne Calderwood tends to be in more fun, more interesting fights.
The fight with Jessica I surprised me a lot.
Yeah,
that was a great fight.
It did. But I don't know. I don't really know besides that what else we might see here. What are you thinking?
I feel like Lauren will want to kind of press Calderwood up against the fence, kind of implement her strategy there in terms of like the grappling, grind it out style. For JoJo, I feel like in terms of the distance striking and such, she will have the advantage, really probably striking overall at a distance. But like you said, she does have good takedown defense. Can she stuff what Lauren Murphy's going to bring at her? Because I feel like she's going to keep coming and coming. So can Calderwood keep her back against the fence, keep it in the middle of the octagon? That's where it might get the most interesting for me in terms of the clash of styles here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's really all that's kind of left to be said about this one. It's two women that you said I would say they're both kind of at the best that we're going to get from them. It's just for Lauren Murphy, it's all about how far can I take her, while for Joanne Calderwood, it's can we see her best, because she's a bit more inconsistent.
I'm looking for both women to come out hungry and wanting to make a statement. You're going to have to want to, tickle Valentina's interest because she wants challengers. So show her what you got in this one. I'm excited for it. So next, a middleweight clash, the first of 3 rematches on this UFC 263 card, even though this one kind of, you know what? Let's just leave it at that. We're getting into it here. Eryk Anders, Darren Stewart, part 2. They're running it back just a little over a month and a half later. I think it's about 2 months, actually. But Eryk Anders, he's 13-5 with 1 no contest, 5-5 in the UFC with 1 no contest. He's got 8 KO TKOs, 1 submission, 9 out of 13 via finish, 7 of those in the first round. Notable wins. Funny enough, I had some digging here. He beat Brendan Allen back at LFA 14 in 2017. That was a decision win there. He's got wins over Marcus Perez via decision and Gerald Mearchart. Notable losses. He's been in there with some tough guys, and it shows right here. Former champion Lyoto Machida via split decision. Former title challenger in Thiago Santos via TKO. Lost to Elias Theodoro via decision. Khalil Roundtree and Krzysztof Jotko via decision. On the other end, Darren Stewart, he's 12-6 with 2 no contests. Also 5-5 in the UFC but he's got 2 no contests in the UFC. 7 KO TKOs, 1 submission. Of those 8, 5 of them have came in the first round. Notable wins against Darren Wynn. You see what I did there? Via decision, and then submitted coconut bombs Mackie Patolo. Notable losses, Carl Roberson and Julian Marquez via submission. Lost a split to Edmund Shabazian. Lost to Bartosz Fabinski in a one-off that happened at Cage Warriors last year via decision, and then lost a split decision to Kevin Holland. And then obviously both these guys have the no contest against each other from that fight that happened back in March. It was the illegal knee to a grounded opponent, if I'm not mistaken, in a fight that Eryk Anders was coming on strong, beginning to dominate. How do you think it plays out in this rematch here?
Yeah, we previewed this fight previously. And what's funny is we both tended to side with Darren Stewart in that one, and yet that's not really what we saw for what the fight turned into. Eryk Anders was landing the much harder shots in that one. Looked really good for as long as it kind of lasted. Unfortunate the way that it had to end there. So it's tough here because what are we going to see more of the same, or can Darren Stewart come in here and be
flip a switch?
Yeah, can he be more of what we wanted him to be in kind of the first fight? You know, I still think Eryk Anders showed he has the power advantage. He's going to land the harder shots. So if this turns into a firefight, he's probably going to be the one winning most of those exchanges. But Darren Stewart is the kind of overall, I would say, better striker of the two. It's just, you know, if he gets too comfortable in the pocket, it can be a bad day for him. Yeah,
he's going to eat some big shots. Eryk Anders has the power, man. And really, in terms of like the grappling, I feel like both are pretty dead even. They don't utilize it too often, but if it does get there, I feel like they're dead even, and it could be very competitive. Should it get there, I think we're going to see 3 rounds of straight stand-up.
Yeah, as long as it goes. I don't know if this is going to a decision for either guy, really. I mean, Eryk Anders has showed a lot of grit, a lot of heart in his career. I mean, I look back at some of the performances this guy's had, even on the losing end, where he's taken just punishment for 3 rounds. Darren Stewart has shown a bit more susceptibility to being finished on the feet. Even in that first Anders fight, he was looking like that fight was going to be over pretty soon.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing here. Can Stewart kind of pick his shots and stay on the outside, stay away from Anders' power shots, and opposite, you know, can Anders kind of turn this into a dogfight, while can Stewart turn it into more of a chess match? I think that's the question.
That is a good way to put it, my friend. We'll see how that first rematch goes. Then the prelim headliner, one of Noah's boys right here, Mr. Drew Dober, number 14. And then Brad Riddell, some lightweight action to cap off the prelims. Drew Dober, woo, man, he's been in there with the best of them. 23 wins, 10 losses, 1 no contest. A seasoned UFC veteran, 9-6 with 1 no contest in the organization. He's got 10 KO TKOs, 6 submissions. Of those 16, half of them have came in the first round. Notable wins against Scott Holtzman and Frank Camacho via decision, a KO of Nasrat Haqparast, and a TKO over Alexander Hernandez, a fight that Dober looked incredible in. Notable losses, Oliver Aben Mercier via submission. Actually, all 3 of these losses have came by submission, next to Beneil Dariush and Islam Makhachev in his most recent outing. For Brad Riddell, a little bit less experienced, but don't forget, and we're going to touch on it, this dude has been there and done that in the kickboxing realm. He's 9-1 in MMA, 3-0 in the UFC. He's got 5 KO TKOs. Of those 5, 3 have came in the first round. And again, pretty new to the UFC, his biggest test here, but he does have a notable win against Magomed Mustafayev via decision in his last outing. We've broken this fight down once, Noah, but it has been or at least not this fight, but both fighters recently, but before their fights fell through. And we're big on this Riddell kid as well. As much as we love Drew Dober, this guy fighting out of City Kickboxing with Israel Adesanya and Alexander Volkanovski, a stud kickboxer, could present some challenges here for Dober.
I agree. I think for Riddell, we less know what we're going to get with him right now. I still think he's showing a lot of improvements, especially on the striking end. I definitely think he'll have a grappling advantage here, but I'll be interested to see how he looks if the fight stays on the feet. Drew Dober, we know he's going to want to come in there, throw some hammers. He's a very fun guy. I'm a big fan. Like you said, one of my boys. And he's not just all, it's not all flash and no substance to it. I mean, the guy is he's very good on his feet.
Yeah.
He brings that pressure and he lands some bombs, and he knows how to kind of put people away when he gets them hurt. That's a very good skill to have. I just think here we know more what we're going to get with Dober. We know where his weaknesses lie, where his strengths lie. For Brad Riddell, it's less clear.
Yeah. And do you think really experience here could play a big factor? Drew Dober, been there in the UFC for quite some time. Riddell, newer to the game, but really experienced in the kickboxing realm. I think this has the makings of a potential fight of the night contender. I see a stand-up war. Will it go all 3 rounds? That I don't know. But Dober's looking to make a statement. Riddell's looking to crack the top 15. That's a great prelim headliner, if you ask me.
I agree. And I will be right back, so you got to carry it for a second.
I will carry it for a second. Ladies and gentlemen, we are starting off the pay-per-view card. Yes, that's just the prelims, so don't go anywhere. We've got 5 fights to cap off here. Starting in the light heavyweight division, 2 top 15 killers, and number 14 ranked Paul Craig, number 15 Jamahal Hill. Paul Craig starting us off here. He's 14-4 with 1 draw, 6-4-1 in the UFC. He's got 2 KO TKOs, 12 submissions. We've not had this in a while, but sound the alarms because that is a 100% finish rate for Mr. Paul Craig. 9 of those 14 have came in the first round. Notable wins against Magomed Ankalaev via submission with 1 second to go in the fight. One of the wildest comeback victories you'll ever see. For another win over Kennedy Nchukwu via submission. And then in his most recent bout, he rematched Shogun Rua, former champion, and TKO'd him there. Coming into this one, Paul Craig is on a 4-fight unbeaten streak, 3 wins and 1 draw. The draw did come to Shogun Rua. He does have some notable losses to Khalil Roundtree via KO, got submitted by Jimmy the Brute Crute, and KO'd by Alonzo Minifield. That Minifield loss came in 2019, the last time Craig has tasted defeat. For Jamahal Hill, less experience here, but a lot of hype behind him. He's 8-0 with 1 no contest, 2-0 in the UFC with the no contest, and he did win a fight on Dana White's Contender Series to earn his contract into the organization. Of those 8 wins, he has 4 KO TKOs, 2 of them in the first round. And the most notable win of his career came in his last outing against a perennial light heavyweight contender, former title challenger, Ovent St. Preux. He got the TKO finish there. And truthfully, and I don't want to toot my own horn too much here, but since Noah's still gone, I did do a preview article on this one for Overtime Heroics, so feel free to check that out if you guys want to. So I did a lot more digging on this one, and it's really kind of a grappler versus striker matchup here. Paul Craig, 12 of his 14 finishes via submission. He loves getting the fight to the ground. In his last outing against Shogun Rua, he began to look a little stronger, a little more well-rounded in terms of his striking, but he inevitably still finished the fight on the ground, even though it wasn't a submission. For Jamahal Hill, on the other hand, a long, rangy striker, a long reach, long legs. And I think in terms of like the overall power, the crispness, the technique on the feet, I lean toward Jamahal Hill in this one. It could, or at least not in terms of the overall grand scheme of the outcome, but in the striking realm, I lean toward Jamahal Hill. Can Paul Craig surprise me? Yes, definitely can. This is a huge jump up for Hill, if I do say so. I know that Ovent St. Preux is a big test for anyone looking to crack into this top 15 of the light heavyweight division. At the end of the day, OSP's been in there with literally some of the best guys this division's seen in recent years. So Hill passed that test with flying colors. Noah, I am jabber-jawing right now. I'll get with you in just a second. But Hill passed that one in flying colors. Craig coming in on a hot streak here as well. 2 momentums collashing, that's not even a word, colliding to kick off the UFC 263 main card. I can't wait for this one. I don't see it going the distance. I think there's a finish no matter who gets the job done here. Noah, you missed my long rant, but you got to let me know what you think about Paul Craig versus Jamahal Hill.
Did I miss a fight?
No, this is the main card opener right here, baby.
Wait. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
We went from Dober to this one.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Apologies.
You weren't gone that long.
I know. Sorry. I had to step away for a second. But, yeah, this is the fight I'm probably the most intrigued by on the whole card.
Man, I love it.
Jamal, you probably already said a lot of this, so I'm just going to kind of be playing clean up here. Jamahal Hill, the better striker. Paul Craig, the better grappler. Paul Craig does have a size advantage, I would say. He looks like he's the bigger, build wise.
In terms of the strength and physique. Yeah. But then Jamahal Hill's the skinnier but real long guy is kind of what I mentioned. So that's what makes it even more interesting.
So if Paul Craig can get his hands on Jamahal Hill, I think this can be a long fight for Jamahal Hill.
Yeah.
Because he's still very unproven in a lot of his takedown defense and the clinch and even on his back. He's very untested in a lot of these
areas. There's a lot of questions he's yet to answer, and this could be a big test.
Yeah, so and it'd be a lot to expect this guy to be really good at all of those. Hopefully he is.
Right.
But that's a lot to put on a young guy who's a really good striker to also expect him to be really good on the ground as well. If the fight stays on the feet, this is all Jamahal Hill. I know Paul Craig has shown some improvements, but when this guy gets hit, he does not like it. Yeah, he does not like it. And Jamahal Hill hits to hurt.
Yeah, he's very precise but very powerful when he touches people.
He shoots to kill, in other words.
Yeah.
So this fight, I think, could be a fight of the night contender. I'm not going to go there. This could also end very quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
But look for whoever wins this fight, I think is kind of a sleeper top 10 contender guy for – we've been thinking a lot about this since Charles Oliveira became champion. And, Jan Blachowicz did it before him. Who is the guys in these divisions right now who a year from now, we don't expect them to be right now. We don't expect them, or a lot of people don't look at them as potential title challengers. But who now, a year in the future, is going to be knocking on the door for a title shot or even potentially holding a belt, title challenge or whatever. I think the winner of this fight is the light heavyweight to do it.
Yeah, I love that little breakdown there and what could come for these guys in the future. It's the classic striker versus grappler on this card. This is the one, and it just so happens it's opening up the pay-per-view. It's two top 15 guys looking to make a statement. I am so excited for this fight.
Agreed.
Now we're going to the 170-pound division back-to-back here, but we start with Demian Maia, number 9. Had a long layoff, but he's back against number 12-ranked Belal Muhammad. Demian Maia, he's been there and done that. I really had to cut down this list as much as I could. He's got 28 wins and 10 losses, 22 in 10 in the UFC. That's the second most wins in the promotion's history. He's got 3 KO TKOs, 14 submissions. Of those 17, 12 have came in the first round. Notable wins over Ed Herman and Chael Sonnen via submission. A decision win over John Fitch, submitted Neil Magny, decision over Gunnar Nelson, back-to-back subs over Matt Brown and Carlos Condit, a split decision over Jorge Masvidal, and a submission win over Ben Askren that put the man to sleep. Notable losses, Nate Marquardt via KO, decision losses to Anderson Silva, which was a title fight, and Chris Weidman, and Jake Shields, and Rory McDonald. Then he gets another title shot against Tyron Woodley, loses a decision there after going 0 for 23 in takedown attempts. Fun fact on that fight. Then loses a decision to Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman, and got TKO'd in his last outing, March of 2020, against Gilbert Burns. So the last time we've seen him, it's been a little bit. For Belal Muhammad, he's coming off of that horrendous eye poke no contest against Leon Edwards that happened in March. So he's bouncing back here quickly. He's 18-3 with the no contest, 9-3 with the no contest in the UFC. He's got 4 KO TKOs, 1 submission. Notable wins against Randy Brown, Tim Means, Takashi Sato, and Diego Lima, all via decision. He is on a 5-fight unbeaten streak. 4 of them are wins, and then obviously the no contest. And then the notable losses to Noah's favorite, Alan Joban, recently retired via decision. Got KO'd by Vicente Luque, which happens to a lot of people, and lost the decision to Jeff Neal. So this fight, I didn't really expect to be made, but it does make sense. I guess I just more so thought maybe Maia was going to retire after the TKO loss to Burns. Mm-hmm. He's back here against a young, hungry lion in Muhammad. It just seems like the momentum is favoring Belal a lot in this one, but a huge test. Although Maia's not great on the feet, if he gets your ankle, gets you to the ground, you're more than likely going to be tapping sooner or later. What do you think?
See, I think I disagree a little bit, and the momentum being in Muhammad's favor. I mean, sure, it might, if you break down kind of their records as of late, that might appear that way.
The no contest definitely hurts.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But then, in general, Belal Muhammad is one of those guys I've described as he's kind of good or competent everywhere.
Yeah. But
there's not one defining skill that
where you're like, hey,
that's where you got to watch out for Belal Muhammad at. He's, he has a lot of decision wins, and that shows. He's a smart fighter. I'd say he has a high octagon IQ.
Yeah.
However, he's going up against the most elite Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner in the entire UFC. I don't care how old the guy is. He's still the best of the best when it comes to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And that's where that's the difference in this fight. Is Muhammad going to have advantages in the striking? 100%.
100%, yeah.
If this, maybe even like he might even have advantages in terms of like I don't know. I mean, I think maybe the longer this fight goes, maybe his cardio will hold up a little better. That's hard to say. Maia's never really had problems with his cardio.
Yeah, but it could always play a factor.
Let's just look at it like striking-wise, Muhammad's going to have the advantage, but is it so much of an advantage? Is it enough to where it makes that much of a difference? Because Muhammad really ever been this like really good striker? No. Now, Maia's chin isn't really that great anymore either. He showed against Gilbert Burns, but again,
True.
Muhammad doesn't have the power that Gilbert Burns has. So I don't know if I really foresee him being able to knock out Maia with the one punch.
Yeah, he's a volume-heavy guy for sure.
Yeah, and not saying that can't play a factor if he brings the pressure, if he's able to put that pressure on. But Maia is such a buzzsaw. He always finds a way. When you get overconfident, when you get a little overzealous, when you come in real hot, he finds a way to get you to the ground. And then
he's going to try and try and try.
Takes that life right out of you. And I just – a lot of this, what I'm talking here is sounding a little negative to Muhammad, and I don't mean it to be that way. It's just when you have two guys going up against each other, one guy has a for sure, like has the most obvious skill advantage in the fight. It's hard to not put a lot of emphasis on that.
Yeah, whereas Demian is competent enough in the striking to compete with Belal, but not many people on the ground can compete with Maia.
I don't know. I don't even know if I'd go that far with Maia. I mean, we know Maia's not a striker. I mean, this is like Ben Askren. It's just he's not a striker. He's not. And I don't know if he's necessarily competent enough to hang with Belal on the feet. I think his striking defense is good enough to hang with Belal.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be hurting Belal on the feet. I don't.
No.
But as far as like, can he dodge and weave some punches? Yeah, of course. He's done that his whole career. Especially against a guy who's not as good of a striker as an Anderson Silva or some of these other guys that Belal has been tested against, That also has a factor. Belal's so battle-tested. I mean, Demian is so battle-tested. Belal might have, a really good fight IQ, like I was saying, but he's going up against Demian Maia, who's been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
Who's going to have a better fight IQ than that guy? I mean,
exactly.
This is a tough matchup for Belal Muhammad following the Leon Edwards fight where, UFC maybe wanted to give him a bone, you might think.
Yeah.
For like kind of taking that fight, and ultimately it didn't turn out too well. But, give him another opportunity to kind of jump into that top 10. He gets his opportunity, but it might be a bit more than he can chew right now, even though Maia is definitely on his way out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Belal can capitalize on it, work his way into that top 10 finally, keep this kind of unbeaten streak alive with that odd no contest in the middle. For Demian, maybe one last hoorah, man. He looks to try and finish out with a win. You never know. I'm excited. It's an interesting fight. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a banger or a fight of the night contender, but there could be some surprises in terms of the outcome. We'll see what happens.
Mhm.
Then we're making history, folks. For the first time in promotion history, we're getting a 5-round non-title fight, non-main event bout between Leon Edwards, the number 3 ranked welterweight in the world, and everyone's favorite fighter, Nate Diaz, Stockton 209. He's finally back. Big test here for Nate in terms of, really, Leon. We'll just get into the resume, right? Because Leon is an absolute killer, man. He's 18-3 with 1 no contest, 10-2 in the UFC with the no contest, 6 KO TKOs, 3 submissions, 5 of the 9 in the first round. Wins over Vicente Luque, Donald Cerrone, Gunnar Nelson, and Rafael dos Anjos, all via decision. He's riding a 9-fight unbeaten streak coming into this. Hasn't lost a fight since fighting the current champion, Kamaru Usman, and also has a loss to Claudio Silva, which came on 3 weeks' notice in his UFC debut. Outside of those 2 fights, he's looked untouchable, essentially, in the UFC. For Nate Diaz, been there and done that. 20 wins, 12 losses. He's 15-10 in the UFC. 5 KO TKOs, 11 submissions. Half of those have come in the first round. Notable wins over guys like Melvin Gillard via submission, Takanori Gomi via submission, decision win over Donald Cerrone, submitted Jim Miller, TKO Gray Maynard, decision win over Michael Johnson. Shocked the world when he submitted Conor McGregor and dealt him his first UFC loss, and then got a very, very decisive victory over Anthony Pettis via unanimous decision. And then some notable losses because he's very battle-tested, as I mentioned, and all of these until the last one have come by decision. Clay Guida, Joe Stevenson, Gray Maynard, Rory McDonald, Benson Henderson, Rafael dos Anjos, Conor McGregor in one of the best fights of all time. And then in the BMF inaugural title fight, one-off, hopefully anyway, it's a one-off. He lost via doctor stoppage TKO to Jorge Masvidal. So he's now 36 years old. And Noah, what's crazy to me, when I was watching the press conference earlier, Leon Edwards, still only 29 years young. This dude is a killer, about as elite-level striker as you're going to see in the welterweight division, but super well-rounded in terms of his grappling, his wrestling. But for Diaz, a great boxer, excellent jiu-jitsu skills. A fight I really just never saw coming, but here we are, and they're fighting for 5 rounds for no reason other than, I guess Nate Diaz wanted it, and Leon said yes. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb. I wasn't thinking this coming in here, but I think I'm going to go fight of the night pick.
Right. Ooh, okay.
So here's the thing. This is a really tough fight for Nate Diaz. This is not an easy fight for him at all.
Oh, no.
At all. Not only because this is a top 3 welterweight, but also Leon Edwards, where Nate Diaz's strengths lie, for the most part, Leon Edwards matches up really well.
Yes, exactly.
Leon Edwards has the output. He has the cardio to go 5 rounds. He's good enough on the ground to at least, he's a step up from like a Conor McGregor in terms of his abilities on the ground.
He's got some underrated grappling, really, because you just don't see it used much.
Yeah, I mean, I think he does enough. It's more to like stop. Like he's good enough to where he tries to prevent himself from ending up on the ground. Like
a good defensive wrestler.
Yeah, yes. However, there's something about Diaz, man. He just
is it something tickling your fancy here?
No, I'm not calling upset. Again, as you guys can tell, we're not really doing the predictions anymore. But I'm not thinking that necessarily, so I don't want to go there. But it's more so. There's something about him to where even in these fights where he seems so outmatched or on paper looks like he's going to get beaten pretty easily, he finds a way to just kind of stay in the fight and in the Masvidal fight, sure, was that very one-sided? Yes. But for the fact that a lot of people, after he got his ass kicked for 3 rounds, said, well, if the doctor didn't stop it, we know that Nate was going to come back in rounds 4 and 5.
Right.
I mean, is that kind of a stupid thing to say? Maybe. But the fact that a lot of competent people in the MMA bubble were saying that shows the kind of respect that Nate Diaz's abilities have, especially when he gets into those later rounds. He really has a good knack for getting his opponents to kind of fight his fight, and where he kind of leads the dance a little bit.
Right.
And could that happen with Leon? It could. However, Leon Edwards has some, high-level striking, like you said, can go all 5 rounds. These 2 guys aren't going to get tired, and that's going to lead to both guys, even in the 5th round, being just as heavy-hitting, as throwing just as much
output,
as
the volume.
Mm-hmm. That's what leads me to think this could be a fight of the night. I don't really see either guy getting finished here. I really don't. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It always is with Nate Diaz.
You know what?
I know I feel like you're going to disagree with me.
No, I'm going to go fight of the night, Paul Craig, Jamahal Hill. Sorry, I had to sit on it. I'm going to go the pay-per-view opener for fight of the night there. But yeah, man, this one I see being either super one-sided on one person's side of things, which I'm not going to say. We're not making predictions anymore. Or maybe it does go back and forth over the course of 5 rounds. Regardless, I think we're going to see, no matter how long it lasts, a pure stand-up battle. Nate just loves to get in there and brawl. And as good as he is with the BJJ and on the ground, is he even going to try and implement it? And if he does, I believe Leon has enough defensive wrestling strengths to stuff the takedowns and keep it on the feet. Leon, really both these guys so known for their output and volume in terms of the striking. Nate's a little bit more of kind of that wilder style, likes to brawl, as I mentioned. Leon, very precise, very technical, picks his shots, clean elbows. And honestly, as much as I hate to say this, we kind of have to at least address this as a factor. Nate Diaz gets cut, and when he gets cut, he bleeds a lot. And I just really hope that something like that doesn't ruin this fight and what could potentially turn into a great fight, because Leon is going to hit him with some hard shots. I think he's going to land some nasty ones that are going to cut him up real good. Hopefully it holds up that scar tissue. We could be in for a war here. And really, as crazy as this is to say, it's really not that crazy either. If Nate Diaz wins, he literally might waltz his way into a title shot just out of nowhere. I don't know. We'll talk more about it on Monday.
I mean, if we're being honest, though, if he beats Leon Edwards,
it's going to happen.
I mean, would you be that upset by it?
No. I mean, he beat a top 3 guy at the end of the day.
I don't know. The way you were kind of wording that made me think maybe you weren't going to be on board with it. I mean, let's be honest.
It'll happen.
If he beats Leon Edwards, people think if Leon Edwards wins this fight, he's getting a title shot, right?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't the same be true if Nate Diaz comes in here and beats Leon?
Exactly.
I mean, I get it. You might want a guy on more of a win streak or whatever, or any sort of win streak. But if he beats a top 3 guy in the world, I mean, you can't deny him,
And it helps when your name is Nate Diaz and have that army of followers behind you, man.
100%.
You almost talked me into saying fight of the night. But
really? I thought you
almost.
were very firm in like a one-sided beating from Leon here.
I still am about 78% on that side, yeah.
And I mean, even if this is a 50-45, type decision, which it could be.
Nate's never going to go away.
Yeah, that's why I still think this could be a great fight. And that's pretty much all to be said there. I'm going to have to – so when you get into this next fight, I realized I should have had my laptop charging while we were doing this. So I'm going to have to walk away again.
Plug the computer in.
Well, you'll probably be able to see me in the background here if you watch it on YouTube. But I'm just letting you know while you go through this next fight, that's what I'm doing. I'm grabbing my computer charger.
Hey, you're just staying in the game with me. That's all. That's all.
Yeah, I came very unprepared this time.
So next up, we've got our co-main event of the evening, the highly anticipated flyweight title rematch between the champion, Deiveson Figueiredo, and the number 1 contender, Brandon Moreno. I cannot wait for this one. They went to war in December of 2020, a fight of the year contender. And while I don't think it's going to be a 5-round war like last time, I still think we're in for a hell of a fight. Deiveson Figueiredo, the champion, is 20 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. It's always hard when they have an even 20. 9-1-1 in the UFC, 9 KO TKOs, 8 submissions. Of those 17, 11 have came in the first round. Notable wins over John Moraga via TKO, decision over Alexandre Pantoja, submitted Tim Elliott, defeated Joseph Benavidez twice, once via TKO and once via submission to become the champion in that vacant fight, and then submitted Alex Perez in less than 2 minutes. He is on a 6-fight unbeaten streak with 5 wins and the draw against Brandon Moreno. The lone loss in the UFC and of his professional career came to Jussier Formiga via decision. On the blue corner side of the octagon, Brandon Moreno, the assassin baby, 18 wins, 5 losses,
Terrible
2 draws.
nickname. Terrible.
Come on,
nickname.
Noah, I love it.
Awful nickname.
Oh, anyways, he's 6-2-2 in the UFC, 3 KO TKOs, 10 submissions, 8 of those 13 in the first round. Notable wins over Luis Smolka via submission, a split decision win over Ryan Benoit, submitted Dustin Ortiz, got a decision over Kai Kara France, Jussier Formiga, and then TKO'd our boy Brandon Raw Dog Royval. Coming into this, he is also on a 6-fight unbeaten streak with 4 wins and 2 draws. Notable losses for him, Sergio Pettis via decision and Alexandre Pantoja. Since that Pantoja loss has looked incredible. He's earned his way up to the title fight, Noah. He went 5 hard rounds in December last year, as I mentioned at the beginning of this breakdown. And I also said this, I don't think it's going to be another 5-round war because, holy shit, it's just, if that happens again, take my money. These two are just the greatest flyweights ever in terms of exciting fights. But they've had full camps. Both guys love to finish fights. No matter who wins, I think it's going to be not only a finish, but a convincing one-sided victory, whoever may be the champion.
That's an interesting point of view. I'm gonna remember that because I'm gonna come back to that. So let's talk about the first fight. Obviously, fight of the year contender. It was the runner-up to Whaley and Joanne, which you thought that fight would get a run for its money, but it did.
Yeah.
Best men's flyweight fight of all time.
Oh yeah.
These two guys came in on 3 weeks' notice each. Both
made history. Yeah.
I mean, literally, Deiveson headlined back-to-back pay-per-views. He headlined with Alex Perez, and as you mentioned, Moreno fought Royval on the prelims.
Mm-hmm.
And then Moreno winning and Deiveson winning, they decided to run it back, or not run it back, but have them fight again in 3 weeks. And we know what a tough cut that is for Deiveson Figueiredo. The guy cuts about a quarter of his body weight to make 125. That's ridiculous. But Brandon Moreno, it's still just hard for him because he still has to prepare for a fight on 3 weeks' notice. I mean, neither guy was 100% in that octagon that night. Yet they gave 110% of what they had in order to put on an unbelievable fight. A fight where, Figueiredo landed so many just power shots, and Moreno just ate him.
And kept coming.
That was kind of the story here. Was I don't remember exactly who rounds I gave to what, but if I had to explain this fight in a sentence or two, I would say Moreno withstands Figgy's punishment and just keeps coming.
Yeah,
he just kept coming, and he wasn't necessarily landing the hardest of shots. He does have some power in his hands. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, he had Figgy
in that
hurt.
fight. But that's what I was about to say, and I think a lot of that was a mixture of the power of the shot, but also just Figueiredo's cardio.
Fatigue. Yeah,
fatigue was hitting him harder than it was Moreno. So that was the story of the first fight. And really the strengths and weaknesses of these guys are going to lie in that kind of – my mentality goes to that sentence I just said for this fight too. Early in this fight, Figueiredo is going to be so dangerous.
Yeah.
Not only on the feet, but even if the fight gets to the ground, we saw how good his submissions are against Alex Perez, how quickly he can put on a submission. It's incredible.
Oh, yeah, high level, black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So early on, he's going to be a dangerous man. I mean, if he, even though Moreno, I think we all underestimated his ability to take a shot in the first fight, and he took a lot of them. So his chin is like granite, man. And, good for him on that. But Deiveson still has some unreal power for this division. He could totally put out Moreno early in this fight. He could.
Yeah.
Especially considering both guys coming off of a war they had against each other. You see that sometimes. Some fighters don't come back the same, at least not right away.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see, how did their chins hold up after that war they had the first time. So Deiveson could do that. He could come in and just kind of beat the brakes off of Moreno for a round or two and put him away. But again, Moreno, he has that knack for he stays in the fight. And I think the longer this fight goes, it's going to favor him again.
100%.
If this fight goes into the championship rounds, I think he is going to be able to hurt Figueiredo more. He's going to be in his face. He's going to be pressuring him. And Figueiredo showed a bit of, he didn't quite wilt in the first fight, but he came very close.
Yeah.
Very close. And, there was a lot of factors in that one.
It was the heart of a fighter that kept him going in that one.
So if he didn't quit in that one, I don't know if he's going to quit in this fight. But I'm just saying I feel just as torn in this one. I like the first fight was a draw, and I could inevitably see this fight being a draw too. That'd be awful. But I'm just saying, like, I really could see this being just as good of a fight, which I usually don't say. We go into these rematches that are very anticipated, and you go, okay, reserve your expectations. If it's an awesome first fight, you're just like, second fight never quite lives up.
Right.
Because how could it? But this is one fight where I could see it doing that. Do I think it will? Probably not.
They have the styles, though, to make it.
And what you were just saying about how you think one guy's going to kind of come in here and
it's going to be a convincing win. I really think so. Yeah.
To me, when you say that lends me to think Deiveson is who you're kind of thinking of there. But I don't know. I feel like if you're talking about a convincing win, Deiveson's going to come in here and just put him away in a round or two.
Yeah, we're so used to seeing Deiveson do that. But man, after what Moreno showed us, and maybe it is just because, let's be honest, everyone was doubting Moreno going into the first one. And that's just because of what Deiveson had been doing. That's nothing against Moreno at all. He's on his own unbeaten streak. But there's something about Brandon Moreno, man, where I just think he could come in and starch Deiveson as well. I don't know what it is. If it's just like he presses him up, grapples him, and lands a bunch of like a big combo. I see it in my head. I'm going back and forth like a pinball in my brain. I really am on the fence with this one. I can't wait for it. And like I said, and I'm going to stick with it. I think no matter who wins, I think they're going to look damn good, man.
Yeah, I guess for me in my head, I don't want to assume that's what you're thinking. I guess what I was saying is your prediction of like that, to me in my head, I was like, that's how I see Deiveson winning this fight is like just a beatdown.
Because that's what he does to people.
But if Moreno wins this fight, I really think it's going to be drawn out. I think it's still going to, like, could he maybe shock the world in the early rounds? He could, and he would be the type of fighter who I could totally see shocking the world. Yeah. He just has that kind of aura to him.
There's something about him.
But I just think for him, rounds 3 through 5, that's where he is. I see him getting a potential stoppage or a victory. I think it's rounds 3 through 5 for him.
Do you think overall pacing from both guys will be as high as it was in that first one? Or do you think after that war, maybe in both guys' minds, or at least in one of them, they're like, all right, let's chill out a little bit more. Maybe even for Figgy, he's saying he wants a first-round KO, but is he really going to come out here? And he literally started that first fight with a spinning back kick. The first strike he threw the fight. Does he come out with that same kind of mentality? Or is it a little bit more methodical, but when the opportunity presents itself, both guys could potentially strike?
Should he be more methodical? Maybe. We'll see how the fight goes. I really do think we might see a lot of the same.
Yeah.
Obviously these guys went back to the drawing board.
Right.
But pacing-wise, I think Figueiredo recognizes that, like, Moreno's going to heat up the longer the fight goes.
True.
He's going to look
to get him out early.
It's kind of like the Cowboy when the opponent's a Cowboy Cerrone. When you go in there, it's like I got to try to put this guy away
first
right
round.
away.
Yeah.
So then you just see a high level of output for those first 5 minutes. And I think if Deiveson can't get him out in the first round, you're going to see him slow down, maybe take a round off in round 2 or something. I don't know. And then you're going to get more of a methodical pace. And ultimately that could be his undoing if Moreno just kicks it up a notch and really unloads on him. This fight's amazing. I love this matchup. The first fight's amazing. And I'll be curious to see if this is Deiveson's last fight as a flyweight. He doesn't act like it's going to be. So
true.
We'll see. But I look forward to it.
And one last thing on this one. I got to toot the horn for the flyweights, the 125ers. Obviously, we're huge advocates of this division. And I love all fight week and really just leading into the event over the past couple of months. This is like the people's main event. People cannot wait for this fight over like all the other ones. And it's so awesome to see this flyweight division getting that spotlight, the limelight, the fans wanting to, gravitate toward it. And both of these fighters, this championship, it's awesome to see that for this division that at one point in its history was so close to being gone, now seems to be really thriving. So it's just awesome. Mm-hmm. And Noah, one last rematch to cap this damn preview show off. And it's the middleweight king, Israel Adesanya, returning back down to 185 to his throne, going up against number 3 ranked Marvin Vettori, looking to become the first Italian UFC champion. We start with the champion, Israel Adesanya. 20 wins, 1 loss. 9-1 in the UFC. This man has already fought 10 times, going on 11 in literally 3 years within the promotion. One of the most active fighters on the roster since he's came in 2018. Of the 20 victories, he's got 15 KO TKOs. 7 have came in the first round. Already has notable wins over Marvin Vettori via split decision in their first bout. Brad Tavares via decision. TKO of Derek Brunson. The fight I hold so dearly to my heart against Anderson Silva, that passing of the torch fight, beat him via decision. Went to hell and back against Kelvin Gastelum in the interim title fight and got the decision win there. Becomes the undisputed champ by knocking out Robert Whittaker in front of the largest crowd in UFC history. Goes on to defend against Yoel Romero in a fight we don't want to talk about, but that was via decision. And then
shit sandwich, as I
the shit sandwich,
described it at one time.
And then gave Paulo Costa his first loss of his career via TKO in a literally chef's kiss style performance. Yeah. The lone loss of his professional career was when he went up to try and become the champ and lost a decision to the light heavyweight champion, Polish power Jan Blachowicz. Mm-hmm. On the other side of things, Marvin Vettori, 17-4 with 1 draw. He's 7-2-1 in the UFC. 2 KO TKOs, 9 submissions, all 11 finishes in the first round. Notable wins over Cesar Ferreira via decision, submitted Carl Roberson, and then a beautiful, great 5-round war with Jack Hermanson, won the decision there, and then beat up on Kevin Holland just a little bit ago. I think it was actually the beginning of April. And he has not lost since that Israel Adesanya fight. He's coming in on a 5-fight win streak, Noah. Notable losses to Antonio Carlos Jr. early on in his UFC career. And then, of course, Israel Adesanya. So the middleweights are taking us out here at UFC 263. It's a rematch. The Italian dream, the style bender. Noah, talk to me. What are you thinking?
You ready for a hot take?
Give it to me. I love it.
And now I've been wrong about Israel's opponents before. I went out on a limb and said Paulo Costa would knock out Adesanya in 1 round.
You did, yes.
Now you see why we don't do predictions anymore. But I think moving forward, at least at this moment in the middleweight division, I think Marvin Vettori has the best chance to beat Adesanya out of current crop of middleweights.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people are going to think that's a hot take because Mr. Robert Whittaker is also there. But I just think for Vettori, while I think the comparisons to Jan Blachowicz are a little bit overdone.
A little much.
You're just a lot of factors involved in that one. However, he does have somewhat of a similar style to Blachowicz, just at a smaller guy.
Right.
You know, he's a big middleweight. He's in the octagon on fight night. He's probably gonna weigh about 210 pounds or so.
I believe so.
A big guy. But, you know, he is a good grappler. He can, you know, if he can really muscle his way into octagons or into Adesanya's range, he can really do some damage. If he gets this fight to the ground, Adesanya showed that he kind of lackluster on his back in the Blachowicz fight. I mean, it's crazy for a guy that's that talented to be kind of weak somewhere.
Well,
but
and
it just
in their
shows
first
how hard it is for him to get the fight there.
Yeah.
And Blachowicz did it as a much bigger man with ease in the later rounds once he realized he could do that. So here, you know, yes, you're right. I know what you were trying. You were starting to go into the first fight, just how Vettori was able to get him to the ground.
That was where he found the success. Yep.
Yeah. So he knows that that's an aspect here.
Yeah.
And Vettori is much improved from their first fight, and so is Adesanya.
Right.
But Adesanya has improved in where he is excellent at. His striking is incredible. Distance control. I mean, he has the Izzy effect is starting to become a real thing. Dominic was talking about that before the Costa fight, and I was like, "What is this guy talking about?"
Trademark still pending.
I was like, "What is this guy talking about? Some Izzy effect?"
It's like, a thing.
Yeah, but there is a thing where these guys get in there and they freeze up.
Yeah.
Could that happen to Marvin? It could, but I still think Marvin's style gives him the best chance. Again, hear my words, people. The best chance out of all middleweights to beat Adesanya. Does that mean I think he's going to win? Not necessarily, but I do think this fight was very close the first time. It could be very one-sided. I mean, again, Adesanya's striking is just another level.
Hey, he's the elite of the elite. And if
Marvin tries to close that distance, he could get caught bad.
Yeah.
Even though Adesanya's a smaller guy, he could totally finish this fight on the feet. Totally.
And if it stays at range, you know it's in Izzy's favor too.
Exactly. But for Marvin, he's just going to have to close that distance, clinch up, drag him to the ground, which he can do. He can definitely do that. I look for this fight. I really think this fight might end up going all 5 rounds.
I agree.
To be honest.
Yeah.
Now, kind of, who does that favor the longer it goes? You would think Adesanya, but I don't know. Both guys have showed, you know, Marvin in his 5-round fight with Jack Hermanson, he did not show to be slowing down all that much in the Jack Hermanson fight.
I agree.
While for Adesanya, his worst rounds were the championship rounds against Blachowicz.
Right.
Rounds 4 and 5, I'm not saying he was necessarily tired, but he got taken down by Blachowicz and just couldn't hustle his way out, and he was just kind of stuck there for 2 rounds. So because of that, I almost wondered if this fight goes the longer it goes, does it kind of favor Vettori? I don't know. I don't want to put too much on the Blachowicz fight because I think a lot of people are going to do that, and Adesanya might come in here and just once again have to show everybody why he's the king of this division.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned in the Blachowicz fight, there's just so many other factors, the weight and all that stuff. This is Izzy's weight class. And that's what makes it more intriguing, you know?
I would like to think Adesanya has an advantage the longer this fight goes. But
I mean, you saw what he did against Kelvin Gastelum in the 5th round.
Good point. Good counterpoint there with the Kelvin Gastelum fight. You know, I think Adesanya could take a better shot than Marvin Vettori can, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
This fight is actually a lot better than people are going to give it credit for. I know Robert Whittaker is the rightful #1 contender, but he wasn't ready. I see no problem with Marvin Vettori stepping in here. The first fight was very close. This fight could be just as close. And do not be surprised if we get an and new in this fight. Do not be surprised, people. Am I going to predict that? No, because we don't make predictions anymore. But
we quit.
It's like, I quit. But regardless, I am just saying that this fight could be really close, and it could go very similar to the first fight. I want people to be ready for it now, so that way that nobody is shocked when Marvin Vettori somehow, if he wins.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to put it. I am very intrigued by this one. Not as much as that other title fight, but damn it, that's just because of that fight they had in December. But this one, Izzy's back down to his rightful weight class, sitting atop the throne. Can the Italian dream come in, shock the world? Can he prove everybody wrong? Only time will tell. We're about, 48 hours now from finding out?
Yeah.
I can't wait, my friend.
Also, I would say don't be surprised if this fight's not the most exciting either. That's a bit of a
Also true.
interesting one. I wouldn't be too surprised if this fight's a bit – no matter which guy kind of is like getting the advantage. If it's Adesanya, I feel like Marvin Vettori is just going to be – it's going to be a lot of distance control and Marvin just not able to really get in close. But if Marvin's winning the fight, it's going to be a lot of top control.
Grinding.
And I don't know if Marvin's really going to be landing a ton of damage off the top.
Yeah.
So that's just how I'm seeing things right now. Could be really off on those, but be sure to check out these fights Saturday night. UFC 263.
Man,
it's be a fun time. Sucks we won't be able to watch it together, Dom, but I'll probably order a pizza or something and watch it here.
I'll order a pizza for you.
Nice. But as far as next week goes, Monday we will have a results and recap for the fights we just discussed, all 9 of them.
All 9 of them.
We will discuss all the results and recap everything from this event happening Saturday night, along with the prelim notable, of course, and the news. I mean, come on.
And the news. And question for you, let's just clear the air right now. Since we previewed 4 prelim fights, can they count in the prelim notables? Or does it have to be one we didn't preview? Because that leaves us with only 4 other fights.
I mean, they can count.
Okay, good. That's what I was hoping you would say. Sorry to put you on the blast like that.
No, I mean, that's fair. Yeah, I last time I think we didn't do that, but I think it probably should. As far as after that, the Wednesday special episode time.
Back.
And we're back with another Reddit roundtable. Make sure to leave us a voice message. If you go to our link tree, leave us a voice message if you have any questions you want answered. We already have one right now for that episode, so I'll be sure to include anybody who has questions that leave them on there. We'll include you guys in a Reddit roundtable.
Tweet us, text us, DM us. Let us know.
Do it all. And then Friday will be a preview again. And that fight, is that Gan Volkov?
No. That's the end. That's the last one. Buddy, we've got Korean Zombie Dan Ige, baby.
Ooh, I forgot. I couldn't remember which one it was. Korean Zombie and Dan 50K Ige.
I just got chills. I'm going to be honest.
That fight's going to be really fun. So that next Friday we'll be previewing that card. But until then, Dominic, tell the good people where they can find you on social media.
Find me on Twitter, on Instagram, at dsleeve14. Another shameless plug, in case you didn't hear earlier, go check out that Overtime Heroics article, baby.
Did you put a shameless plug while I was away?
Just a little. I had to do some airtime. That's all it was.
Yeah, I get it.
Paul Craig, Jamahal Hill. Can't wait for that one. If not, whatever. I just think I'm trying my best out here. And then you can find the podcast, more importantly, on Twitter, on Instagram, at BAJ_MMA podcast.
Yep. And for me, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ntbaker_. In my bio on both of those, there's a link to the link tree, which provides you with literally everywhere the podcast is available. So Twitter or Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, YouTube channel link is on there. And there's a link for the Anchor page. Oh, yeah. If you want to leave a voice message, or if you want to donate some money to us, support us as we are looking to grow and build this thing. But, that's it. We're out, and we're going to see you guys on Monday.